Hey y'all, I am back with another sponsored reading. As you can see already, this one is about Nas. So Nas is a veteran rapper. He's been rapping professionally since the 90s. And I would say he's one of my favorite rappers. He's up there. I'll put him in the top 7 of best rappers in my opinion. So this quote right here of Nas is, my weapon of choice is my voice. That's dealing with his Mars and Taurus, because Mars is weapon and Taurus is voice. So this video has been sponsored by Lish B. Thank you, Lish, for sponsoring this video. Lish is one of my students. So she really likes Nas, has a thing for Nas. So she wanted me to do a reading about Nas, and she has some questions. So Lish wants to know, does Nas have a narcissistic aspect in his birth chart as Khalees claims him to be, and with that Virgo sun? So I'll get into what I see in particular. Well, I'll just say it now. He got Mars square Jupiter, and that can cause him to have an overblown ego, an overblown sense of self. So that's where the narcissism is coming from in his particular case. You said, natally, where was the disconnect as she is a Leo? Well, he doesn't have any planets in Leo, so that's part of it. And he has Jupiter in Aquarius, so that opposition alone can produce some problems. That could produce a disconnect. Is he a covert woman abuser? I would say yes, and I'll get into that in a minute. Is he a great father the way he appears? I would say no. And I'll get into that as well. You said, is he a good person or misunderstood? Now, I'll say that he tries to be a good person, but due to some of his personality defects, he is challenged in that area at times. What makes him so connected to his people, ancestors, Africa, and melanated folks? Well, he has his South Node in Cancer conjoined to Saturn, so that explains it. Is he truly generous? I would say no. Where in his chart shows his legend status in being one of the greatest rappers in history. So I'll be pointing to some of the aspects that point to that. One of them is he does have Mars in Taurus, trine Capricorn, and that could deal with where he receives a high level of recognition for his work, for his artistry. So let's get into his numerology first. So his birth number is 14, that breaks down to 5. And 14-5 is great for being a rapper and lyricist. But 14 can also produce challenges with movement in the physical sense, such as getting an injury, but also moving beyond your current situation, or even moving beyond a bad relationship. Major come-ups followed by major losses. That can happen when you have a birth number of 14. Life path number 7. That pertains to music, his artistry, but also where at times he could be humiliated or maybe even try to humiliate others. It can make him prone to lie. And 7 can manifest as addictions, drinking and smoking heavily in particular, which is what Khalees claimed when they were married. So here's his chart right here. Here's that Saturn South Node in Cancer, both at the 3rd degree. So that's a really tight aspect, only 7 minutes apart. So it's just showing that he has karmic debt involving women, family, his mother. He lost his mother already, so that points to that. He has Moon conjunct Chiron in Aries, and that's a big issue, dealing with women, but also his anger issues. He has Mars in Taurus. Of course, he's a Virgo, but he only has his sun in Virgo. He has Mercury conjoined to Pluto in Libra, Venus in Scorpio, Uranus in Libra, Neptune in Sagittarius, North Node in Capricorn, Jupiter in Aquarius. Now, unfortunately, I don't have Nas's birth time, so we're just going to have to go with what we have, which is the aspects and the planets in the signs, but we could still glean a lot of information just by taking those parts of the chart into account. All right. So Sun at the 21st degree of Virgo. So with this, that can make him very critical and analytical, a hard worker. So Nas, typically looks neat and clean and well put together. I never seen Nas looking sloppy or messed up or whatever. Maintaining a youthful look, remaining humble. So I will say that about Nas, even though he's attained a high status in terms of his rap career and other projects has going on, he does seem like he does try to remain humble. Being a perfectionist. And that can produce problems in and of itself because you can't rarely will you achieve perfection. Great command of the English language. Helpful, reliable, dependable, practical to a certain extent. Easily irritated, volatile. So here are some of the negatives of this Virgo energy. Fault finding, constant complaining, dissatisfaction with self and others. Insecure, neurotic, being a worrywart. Also, this is representing the amount of help he provides his children, being a major theme because the Sun is representing children and Virgo is dealing with help. Issues with being integrated into a child's life. Virgo is about integration. So Nas suffers from the Virgo father syndrome. So with Virgo men, and of course, not all Virgo men, but with Virgo men that got issues, if they're not with the mother of their children, it's easy for them to turn their back on the children or to be a half-assed father. So that should answer your question, Liz, about how he is with his kids. And just let me explain that a little deeper about that Virgo syndrome, Virgo father syndrome, because Virgo is about what should be. And again, Virgo is a perfectionist. Virgo is basically saying, a family is a wife and a husband and kids. So if the wife is no longer in the picture, or if he never married the woman and they're not together anymore, there's a high chance he won't try to step up to the plate, or he might have to be forced to step up to the plate because that whole ideal image of family has been destroyed in his mind. So he's like, well, she don't want to be with me, so I guess we're not going to be a family. So Virgo men in particular can be some of the worst when dealing with co-parenting. That's if they don't get their way. And if they still got feelings for the mother of their children, oh God, they will use the children as a weapon, or, take it out on the children through not supporting them to a certain extent, or maybe not even being in their life at all. And again, I'm not saying all Virgo men are guilty of this, but I've seen it occur quite a bit. So Sun in Virgo, sesqui-square Mars in Taurus. So this is Nas having to humble himself in order to get the bag. So after the whole Jay-Z Nas beef, which resulted in them putting out some diss songs against each other, he signed on to Def Jam when Jay-Z was the president. So that was him having to humble himself in order to get some money. Nas taking offense to the money he has to pay for his children. So this is another aspect where it's like he takes it hard that he has to pay child support, that he has to come out of his pocket to provide help to his children. Probably refuse to give the kids anything extra. So with this aspect, he might say, well, she's getting this amount of money from me every month, so I'm not going to pay any extra money to get the kids shoes or whatever like that. It can all come out of that child support check. Could have a bad accountant at some point. Sun conjunct Denebula. Denebula is a fixed star that can manifest as criticism, so it just reinforces the Virgo energy, but also perseverance, control, lack of imagination, honors, undesirable associates, and mental illness. Also, where happiness turns to despair, and that's basically what happened with his two main relationships: disease, natural disasters, catastrophes. And also the happiness turns to despair. It could be, he had children with 2 women and, it started off being all happy. And then next thing you know, it turns to despair. So he has Sun in Virgo, quincunx Chiron in Aries. So this is Nas alternating between being humble and egocentric. Could use his children as weapons. It is not easy to stick to schedules and routines. Something is always coming up, and that could cause him to cancel some performances that he has committed to. Little Nas X. So when I saw this quincunx, it made me think of Little Nas X. And I always felt some type of way when Little Nas X came on the scene, because I was like, damn, he just hijacked Nas's name. And I was like, that's whack. So I really wonder how Nas felt about that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nas felt some type of way when Little Nas X first came on the scene. If it was me, I certainly would. And it's funny, I feel like it might have been payback for him coming out with that album Hip Hop is Dead, or I think it was just a song, Hip Hop is Dead. And then they was like, okay, we're gonna bring this dude out, this clown Lil Nas X, and we really gonna show you how hip hop is dead. So Lil Nas X basically taking on Nas's moniker, it's akin to hip hop blasphemy in my opinion. Also, this can make him fastidious and overly neurotic about his hair. Probably gives his barber hell if he doesn't get his hair exactly right. And Virgo, they can be crazy when it comes to grooming. Like everything has to be perfect. My Virgo ex used to spend plenty of time in front of the mirror, always he would spend so much time just adjusting his hat. It was crazy. A problem with digestion, perhaps chronic heartburn and acid reflux with Chiron being in Aries. That could be part of his problem, why he always got an attitude. So he has some parallel Asclepius. So this reinforces gastrointestinal issues, especially with respect to acid reflux, heartburn, and ulcers, perhaps. Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra. This is a big part of his issue. So, he coined himself Nasty Nas, and that's coming from that Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra. So one of his first songs was Life's a Bitch, Then You Die. That's one of my favorite songs of Nas. That's from his first album, Illmatic. But that conjunction is dealing with that statement right there in that song. Also, Mercury conjunct Pluto makes him a deep thinker, profound words, spitting lyrics, lethal with his rap game. Just listen to the song Ether. Will cut you down to size, will bury you. And again, that's what he did with Jay-Z when he wrote Ether. Very perceptive when it comes to people. But also this can produce a suspicious mindset, and where some of his suspicions are unwarranted. Also investigative and incisive mindset. Dark, vengeful thoughts, harboring resentment. Here he is with DMX. Mercury and Pluto in Libra trine Jupiter in Aquarius. So this is one of the aspects that makes him one of the best rappers out there. And this is representing that song Ether in particular with Aquarius ruling Ether. So attracting a huge following and fan base as a rapper. So this quote right here pertains to this trine. Nas has been praised for his ability to create a devastating match between lyrics and production by journalist Peter Shapiro, as well as creating a potent evocation of life on the street. And he has even been compared to Rakim for his lyrical technique. Teaming up with groups and friends, rap collaborations, having a tight production team, an enlightened being who enlightens others in return. An activist with respect to education. So this is one of my favorite album covers of his. Back in the day, I had all of his CDs. Mercury and Pluto in Libra trine Jupiter in Aquarius again. So it says Nas is a spokesperson and mentor for P-Tones Records, a nonprofit after-school music program with the mission to create constructive opportunities for urban youth through no-cost music programs. Also, this quote, in September 2013, he invested in a technology startup company, a job search app maker called Proven. In 2014, Nas invested as part of a $2.8 million round in viral video startup Viral Games, another addition to Queensbridge Venture Partners portfolio. In June 2018, Nas was paid $40 million after Amazon acquired the doorbell company Ring Incorporated, as well as PillPack, the latter of which he invested in via his investment firm, Queensbridge Venture Partners. So this trying to showing that he's an astute investor and that he can see the coming trends. He has continued to invest heavily in technology startups. So the technology startups, that's very Jupiter and Aquarius, including Dropbox, Lyft, and Robinhood. I love this album too. It was written, I believe this was his second album. Mercury and Pluto in Libra trine Jupiter and Aquarius. So more about this in his book of rhymes, The Poetics of Hip Hop. Writer Adam Bradley states, Nas is perhaps contemporary rap's greatest innovator in storytelling. His catalog includes songs narrated before birth, fetus, and after death amongst kings, biographies, UBR, unauthorized biography of Rakim, and autobiographies, Do-Rags, allegorical tales, Money is My Bitch, and epistolary ones, One Love. He's rapped in the voice of a woman, Sekou Story. I recently had to listen to that to hear him sounding like a woman. And even of a gun, I Gave You Power. I love I Gave You Power. Robert Christgau writes that Nas has been transfiguring gangster rap since Illmatic. Humo D notes that Nas has an offbeat conversational flow in his book, There's a God on the Mic. He says, before Nas, every MC focused on rhyming with a cadence that ultimately put the words that rhymed on beat with the snare drum. Nas created a style of rapping that was more conversational than ever before. Nas is also described as having a densely packed flow. That's very Mercury conjunct Pluto, with compound rhymes that run over from one beat into the next, or even into another bar. So his innovative rapping style is very much dealing with this trine. Mercury and Pluto in Libra, sextile Neptune in Aquarius. Neptune in Sagittarius. So this makes him good at freestyling, also incorporating philosophical and spiritual views in his rhymes, royalty checks he receives from licensing deals and publishing, playing the supporting role in the film Belly, inspiring up-and-coming rappers. This quote right here pertains to the sextile. Nas invested an undisclosed six-figure sum into Mass Appeal magazine, where he went on to serve as the publication's associate publisher, joined by creative firm Deacon and White Owl Capital Partners. In June 2013, he opened his own sneaker store. Mercury and Pluto in Libra squared Cancer, South Node, and Capricorn, North Node. So with this, says Nas referenced her in his song Ultra Black. So this is him getting into a little hot water with Doja Cat. So with this squares right here involving his Mercury and Pluto and the nodes, this is where his mouth gets him into trouble at times. So Nas referenced her, Doja Cat, in his song Ultra Black, calling her the opposite of Ultra Black. Now, you know, this is coming from that Cancer energy with rates, but also Capricorn with the color black. Nas later claimed that the line was not meant to be perceived as a diss, and that he was just trying to find another word that worked with the scheme of the song. Here's another incident. When announced that Nas was to perform, political commentator Bill O'Reilly and Fox News denounced the concert and called for Nas' removal, citing violent lyrics on songs such as Shoot 'Em Up, Got Yourself a Gun, and Made You Look. During his Talking Points memo segment for August 15, 2007, an argument erupted in which O'Reilly claimed that it was not only Nas's lyrical content that made him inappropriate for the event, citing the gun conviction on Nas's criminal record. On July 23, 2008, Nas appeared on the Colbert Report to discuss his opinion of O'Reilly and Fox News, which he accused of bias against the African-American community and re-challenged O'Reilly to a debate. During the appearance, Nas sat on boxes of more than 625,000 signatures gathered by online advocacy organization Color of Change in support of a petition accusing Fox of race baiting and fear mongering. Also with these squares involving Mercury and Pluto and the nodes, after Tupac interpreted lines directed to the Notorious B.I.G. on Nas's 1996 album, It Was Written, to be aimed towards him, he attacked Nas on the track Against All Odds from the Don Illuminati, The 7-Day Theory. Nas himself later admitted he was brought to tears when he heard the diss because he idolized Tupac. The two later met in Central Park before the 1996 MTV Video Music Awards and ended their feud, with Tupac promising to remove any disses aimed at Nas from the official album release. However, Tupac was shot 4 times in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas, Nevada, 3 days later on September 7th, dying of his wounds on September 13th before any edits to the album could be made. Also with these squares, he got into it with Jeezy. So after Nas blamed Southern hip hop as the cause of the perceived artistic decline of the genre on his 2006 single Hip Hop Is Dead from the album of the same name, his then Def Jam label mate Young Jeezy took offense by claiming that Nas had no street credibility and vowing his album, The Inspiration, would outsell Hip Hop Is Dead, which were released 1 week apart from each other in December 2006. Basically, Nas called Jeezy's album, no, I'm getting it mixed up with, that's coming up, where he called somebody's album whack. But in this case, he was basically talking about how Southern hip hop was part of the reason for hip hop's decline. After failing to do so, Young Jeezy took back his disses towards Nas, and the two later collaborated on the 2008 hit single, My President. Here's Nas back in the day sporting Karl Kani, who was a hip hop designer who was pretty major back in the 90s. I don't know what's going on with him now. You don't ever see his stuff anymore. Let me know anybody that still wears Karl Kani. I think he still is a designer, but I don't know. So Mars and Taurus trine North Node in Capricorn. So this is representing his successful business ventures, long money, financial security, like when he got that $40 million. Father is a musician. So his father was his main source of inspiration. Father was a jazz musician. Discipline with eating habits and food choices, perhaps. Longevity in terms of artistry. On November 12, 2019, Nas was honored by Halt Living, along with watches of Switzerland and Hennessy, in a celebratory affair that included a violin rendition of iconic Nas songs performed by Edward W. Hardy. He owns his own clothing line called History, and that's so North Node in Capricorn, with Capricorn ruling history. About.com ranked him first on their list of the 50 greatest MCs of all time in 2014, and a year later, Nas was featured on the 10 best rappers of all time list by Billboard. The source ranked him number 2 on their list of the top 50 lyricists of all time. In 2013, Nas was ranked 4th on MTV's hottest MCs in the game list. His debut, Illmatic, is widely considered among the greatest hip hop albums of all time. Mars and Taurus square Jupiter in Aquarius. So this is where he could be having touches of narcissism. I wouldn't say he's a full-blown narcissist, but this can contribute to him having some narcissistic tendencies. So overblown ego, And this is mainly due to being overhyped by fans. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I believe Nas is one of the best rappers out there, one of the best that ever did it in the rap game. But I think sometimes his fans give him too much credit, to the point where they refuse to believe Khaleesi's claims that he was abusive towards her. Explains why he is a horrible actor. I mean, if you haven't seen him acting, I mean, just watch Belly. He was horrible. Basically, in that movie, he came across as too indifferent, too nonchalant, impersonal, and almost half human, lacking a strong sense of individuality. When he exercises self-preservation, he could lose some friends in the process. And again, lacking a strong sense of individuality makes me think how he's always repping Queensbridge and all that. It's like that's a big part of who his identity is. And without that Queensbridge, it's like, okay, who are you really? And sometimes he might even, put his friends before his own needs. Now, hates flying. So there was this reality show pilot. Y'all can check it out. I wish I could include some of the clips, but I'm afraid YouTube is going to give me a copyright strike. So I was like, let me leave it alone. But y'all can check out the reality show pilot. It's on YouTube if you haven't seen it. And it's pretty juicy because it's showing you the dynamic between Khaleesi and Nas. It's only a small little glimpse of their relationship, but Nas was being a real pain in the ass when it came time for him to get on this flight. And basically it was, there was a blurb that said, Nas is extremely afraid of flying. So this aspect points to that, with Jupiter and Aquarius representing flying on a plane, traveling via plane. Hates flying, needs to be on solid ground with that Mars and Taurus. Very concerned about his safety. He even mentioned when they were in the airport, he was like, yo, there might be some terrorists that come and blow up this plane. He was like, I need, because the whole thing was they had to go to the UK to do some like promotional shit. And Khaleesi was all hyped up. It was like, come on, let's do it and stuff. Well, when they got to the airport, I don't know why they didn't book the tickets in advance, but when they got to the airport, they were like, well, we could only put you in business class. We don't have first class available on this particular flight. And Nas was all like, oh, come on, man. I gotta lay down, man. I gotta be asleep the whole time. I ain't doing it. I can't do business class. I was like, oh my God. It just showed you how difficult he could be. So also acting like he didn't know about his finances when in child support court, according to Khaleesi. So Khaleesi said when they were in child support court, and the judge was asking him, okay, where's your money at? How do you make your money? And he kept on saying, I don't know. How much money do you have? I don't know. I don't know. So that's him feigning ignorance and just being difficult. This can make him quite difficult when it comes to money. So the beef between Nas and Jay-Z is pointing to this T-square in his chart. Let me go back to his chart just to highlight it. So the T-square, oh my God, okay. The T-square is involving that Venus opposition Mars, and then Mars is squaring Jupiter, and Venus is squaring Jupiter. So this T-square is pointing to the beef with Jay-Z, amongst other things. So let's get into it. So initially friends, Nas and Jay-Z had met a number of times in the 1990s with no animosity between the two. Jay-Z requested that Nas appear on his 1996 album, Reasonable Doubt, on the track Bring It On. However, Nas never showed up to the studio and was not included on the album. In response to this, Jay-Z asked producer Ski Beats to sample a line from Nas's song, The World Is Yours, with the sample featured heavily in what went on to be Dead Presidents 2. The two traded subliminal responses for the next couple of years until the beef was escalated further in 2001 after Jay-Z publicly addressed Nas at the Summer Jam performing what would go on to be known as Takeover, ending the performance by saying, "Ask Nas, he don't want it," with Hov. After Jay-Z eventually released the song on his 2001 album, The Blueprint, Nas responded with the song Ether from his album Stillmatic, with both fans and critics saying that that song had effectively saved Nas' career and marked his return to prominence, and almost unanimously agreeing Nas had won their feud. He definitely did. Look, let me tell you, when somebody pisses me off, a lot of times, especially if it's a man, I put Ether on. Now, Jay-Z responded with a freestyle over the instrumental to Nas' Got Yourself a Gun, known as Super Ugly. That's like the pot calling the kettle black. In the song, Jay-Z makes reference to Nas's girlfriend and daughter, going into graphic detail about having an affair with his girlfriend. Jay-Z's mother was personally disgusted by the song and demanded he apologize to Nas and his family, which he did in December 2001 on Hot 97. Super Ugly marked the last direct diss song between Jay-Z and Nas. However, the two continued to trade subliminals on their subsequent releases. The feud was officially brought to an end in 2005 when Jay-Z and Nas performed on stage together in a surprise concert also featuring P. Diddy, Kanye West, and Beanie Siegel. The following year, Nas signed with Def Jam Recordings, of which Jay-Z then served as president. Nas really feeling it right here. That's that Mars and Taurus. Now, Jupiter in Aquarius sextile Neptune in Sagittarius. This is dealing with the Get Down deal with Netflix. So he had a series called The Get Down on Netflix, and that's representing like hip hop in the 80s and 90s, I guess. I never got down with the show, but my son used to watch it. Nas was announced as one of the executive producers of the Netflix original series, The Get Down, prior to its release in August 2016. He narrated the series and rapped as adult Ezekiel of 1996. Opportunities to travel all over the world, having fans from all over the world, having friends in high places. In July 2013, Harvard University established the Nasir Jones Hip Hop Fellowship to fund scholars and artists who show potential and creativity in the arts in connection to hip hop. In May 2014, Nas partnered with job placement startup Koru to fund a scholarship for 10 college graduates to go through Koru's training program. Nas will also be joining the startup as a guest coach. Nas is a co-owner of a cloud-based service, Lander, an automated drag and drop digital audio post-production tool, which automates mastering, the final stage in audio production. In June 2015, Nas joined forces with New York City soul food restaurant Sweet Chick. Now that also, that part deals with that Saturn conjoined to the Cancer South Node, the restaurant part. He plans to expand the restaurant brand nationally. And especially with respect to Venus being in trine with that Saturn in the South Node, that's that restaurant partnership. Venus contraparallel Hebe. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if Nas got with some underage girls, groupies back in his day. A lot of rappers have, I'm sure, a lot of rock stars, all that. A lot of these celebrities, artists, they don't ask to see ID when these women and girls show up to their show up backstage. So I wouldn't be surprised if that took place a few times. But this aspect could also pertain to child support and custody battles. North Node conjoined to Icarus, Saturn and South Node opposition Icarus. So this is a situation involving a concert, but I'll get into that in a minute. Also, this can produce a fear of flying. So this is reinforcing his fear of flying. He might have got into a plane crash in a past life. Jupiter opposition Nemesis. Placing, let me stop. I was thinking maybe he was Richie Valens in a past life. That's not funny. But if you don't know who Richie Valens is, check out the movie La Bamba. But anyway, Jupiter opposition Nemesis, placing blame on the concert promoter. I'll be talking about this situation with the concert in a minute. Jupiter, but also this could cause him to place a blame on one of his children, perhaps. Jupiter conjunct Salacia. Salacious information is revealed about an associate. So he came out saying that Cameron is HIV positive. And so this aspect pertains to Cameron in particular because Cameron is an Aquarius. But it also points to salacious information coming out about his marriage and his first baby mama and all that. Moon opposition Volcano could blame women for his explosive anger. And that could just deal with the domestic violence that was occurring in his marriage with Khalees and also with his first baby mom, Carmen. Mercury parallel Zanaya. So Zanaya can manifest as order, congeniality, lovable nature, refinement, honor, money, love, adultery. And Nas has admitted to committing adultery while he was married to Khalees and prostitution. I wouldn't be surprised if he was patronizing some prostitutes too, but they were probably strippers. But you know, it could be the same thing sometimes. Venus parallel Gietta Prima, beneficence, peculiar events, love affairs, great good fortune. Saturn conjunct Propus. Overconfidence, pride, shamelessness, violence, eminence, manifest intelligence. So the fact that this conjunction is in Cancer and with violence, that's basically can be violence towards women. Now, I would venture to say that Nas is not the type that you can actually call a woman beater. And he did say that he doesn't beat women. But I will say I wouldn't be surprised if Khalees is telling the truth where he did put his hands on her and as his first baby mom as well. And he may not even remember what he did because there was times where he was blackout drunk, according to Khalees. So in his mind, he's not a woman beater because he doesn't consciously think about beating women. But that means nothing if you're getting drunk and you're still ending up putting your hands on women. But again, I wouldn't call him a classic woman beater. Uranus conjunct Foramen. So Foramen can manifest as prosperity, which he's definitely achieved, leadership, divine teacher, creative power, but also peril, dignity, piety, usefulness, acquisitiveness, ear and eye trouble. He could definitely have some ear trouble just by, you know, performing on stage, those loud speakers. A lot of performers end up having ear problems because of the loud speakers. Indecision, shipwreck. He's probably afraid of getting on a ship too. Neptune conjunct Marfik. Marfik can make one passionate, blindly good-hearted, but also easily seduced. And it can result in being a healer with herbs or a healer with herbs. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to a herbalist. And that could just deal with him using weed as a healing, as a form of healing. You know, what do they call that? Self-medicating? Neptune parallel Castra. So Castra can manifest as destructiveness, uncontrollable temper, which I'm sure he has, and malevolence, especially with that moon in Aries conjoined to Chiron. He definitely has an uncontrollable temper. North Node conjunct Cosmedius. Cosmedius can result in being polite, popular, having many friends. It also brings the danger of earthquakes and natural disasters and political conflict. He got into political conflict with Bill O'Reilly, basically. North Node conjoined to Polis. Polis can manifest as martial desires, high ambitions, domination, keen perception, and that reinforces that Mercury conjunct Pluto with the keen perception, success, horsemanship, truthfulness, spiritual power. All right, let's get into his relationships with some of these aspects. And then I'm going to talk about some of the aspects between Khalees and Nas in their synastry. But I thought they made such a cute couple. I mean, they were so right for each other, at least in terms of looks. But they were so wrong for each other in a bunch of other ways. So Nas Venus is at the first degree of Scorpio, and that first degree pertains to children. So issues with child support and custody support is a major theme in general. Close bonds, when you got Venus and Scorpio, you know, that can produce close bonds. But also love-hate unions. So it's like the love is intense. The love is so strong. It's like, oh, I can't live without you. And then next minute, it's, I hate You're so much right now. Yeah. Attracted to bad girls, turned on by hoes. Just listen to the lyrics in Made You Look. He said, it's the one that's the freakiest, the ones that are nastiest. Yeah, he likes the nasty chick. Not saying Khalees is, but let me tell you how dudes with Venus and Scorpio roll. If they happen to get with a woman that's quote unquote a girl, good girl, and I'm not saying Khalees is, because I'm sure Khalees been around the block a number of times before she got with Nas, but if she's typically a good girl, a Venus and Scorpio man might still go out and seek out some hoes because they love a nasty chick. Attracts controlling and manipulative women. Jealousy and vindictiveness will be a major theme in his relationships. Can become obsessed with a woman. Intense, emotionally tumultuous relationships. Sex could be the glue that keeps him and a woman together, at least for a while. And with Venus and Scorpio, I'm pretty sure he loves to eat the box. Now, this quote right here, I hate all this, but you were a very jealous wife, and I had to deal with that. And that's the worst feeling. So him claiming Khalees was very jealous, that's that Venus and Scorpio. He claims that Khalees essentially blackballed herself with what he views as her venomous nature, and nobody in his circle likes her. That's that Venus square Jupiter. So you see how Venus square Jupiter, that's him basically saying no one in my circle likes her. So Venus and Scorpio opposition Mars and Taurus. So with this, owing child support, but holding out, issues with custody and visitation, always on the prowl for women. Now with Mars and Taurus, not everybody, but some people with Mars and Taurus can be quite selfish with their money. So this is him wanting to hold on to as much money as he can. So he will stretch it out as long as he can with not paying child support. So this can also make him always on the prowl for women. So it's not easy for him to be in a monogamous commitment or a monogamous marriage. He should not get married again. Does not view women in a positive light. Also, this shows where he could devalue women. Will take back what he gave a woman or set out to destroy it. Places himself above women, basically. Women are to play a supporting role in his life. Basically, this opposition could represent that gods and earth shit, like that 5%er shit. And I think Nas did kind of subscribe to that 5%er belief system where he's the god and his woman is earth. And if you think about it, God is supposed to be the creator of everything, including the earth. So that puts man above woman. I don't like that shit. Tax problems. So it says in September 2009, the U.S. Internal Revenue Service filed a federal tax lien against Nas for over $2.5 million, seeking unpaid taxes dating back to 2006. By early 2011, this figure had ballooned to over 6.4 million. In 2012, reports emerged that the IRS had filed papers in Georgia to garnish a portion of Nas' earnings from material published under BMI and ASCAP until his delinquent tax bill is settled. This quote right here is dealing with this opposition. On his 2006 mixtape, The Prophecy, Volume 2, The Beginning of the End, Nas has a track titled Life's Gone Low. It was a substantial sampling of Life's Gone Down Low, a song released by Nigerian musician twin Lajadu sisters in their 1976 Danger album. Nas lifted vocal hooks and the entire beats from the duo's work. Nas neither obtained clearance nor did he credit the sisters for the reuse. Reacting to the issue, the Lajadu sisters were reported to have said, "We can't forgive him, but if other people want to use your stuff, that tells that you did something good." They should have sued him. Okay, here they go right here. They just look ridiculous right here. Now you'll see in a number of these pictures that they were very much like dressing alike, or at least dressing in a very complimentary way. And there's a few aspects in Nas' chart and also their synastry that points to this. But they look ridiculous. I think they were dusted when they went to this event because they both look crazy. So this right here is dealing with Saturn conjoined to his South Node in Cancer. So this is heavy karma involving women, family, co-parenting, race, culture. But like I'm saying with this picture right here, being a mirror image of his wife, or where they're just mirroring each other. The matching gold fronts are representative of this. Saturn rules the teeth. And especially with this conjunction opposing the Capricorn North Node, Capricorn rules the teeth. So meeting women through his line of work, you know, Nas never had any problem attracting women. He's a rather handsome dude. Control issues with women, degrading women perhaps. He did a collaboration with Wu-Tang called Let My Niggas Live, and he was talking about peeing on bitches, sticking things in their anus and stuff, punishing women. And this is representing the movie Belly because Cancer rules the belly. And again, he was horrible in that film. I love you too. He was like, you want to everyone want to everybody got to. Moon conjunct Chiron and Aries. So this is another aspect where he's going to attract a woman that's very much like him or that will go right along with what he wants. And also with the moon influence attracting women who will mirror him. Aries dealing with the self. So he needs a woman that's going to constantly accentuate or validate who he is. And them dressing alike and all that, being two peas in a pod points to that. Prone to inflict wounds upon women. That's from the Chiron influence. Even though they look so cute here, I can't get over it. Oh my God. A chick magnet. So again, Nas has never had any problem attracting women because he's cute like that. He really wasn't my type. You know, I was kind of into the dudes that look kind of rough around the edges like the RZA, attempting to be the exception to the rule when it comes to women. So this is another aspect where don't be surprised if you marry his ass, he ain't going to be faithful. A fire starter, burning things up. I wouldn't be surprised if he burned some of her shit up before. Having a chip on his shoulder. Why, I don't know, but he just got a chip on his shoulder. And also this is representing a mole on his face with Chiron representing moles. Could be a remnant of a past life injury. So Chiron will sometimes represent moles, and these moles could be a remnant of a past life wound. So he might have got shot in the face in a past life, or maybe he was in that plane accident in a past life and his face got injured. They look like they were kind of on hard times in this picture. Moon and Chiron in Aries, opposition Uranus and Libra. So this can manifest as separations, especially painful separations. Court case involving women, domestic violence. Friends can pull him away from his woman/wife, or you could even say a strange woman can. Random encounters with women and female fans makes it hard for him to be true to his wife. On March 15, 2012, Nas became the first rapper to have a personal verified account on Genius, where he explains his own lyrics and occasionally comments on lyrics from other rappers he admires. So this opposition also deals with that. Keep in mind that oppositions aren't all bad. Sometimes they just deal with who you're dealing with and whatever deal you're making and what you have to do in return for something, and you reaching out to someone or seeking out something and whatsoever. I like this picture. I love her hair right here. Elise is so pretty. Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra. So I already talked about this conjunction, but let's discuss it in terms of his relationships, because this conjunction is in Libra. So this is where he's experiencing fusion of his mind with his woman, or where he doesn't really tolerate a woman having a mind of her own when he's in a relationship with her. Also, the dark thoughts directed towards his woman, and it could really come out when he starts drinking. Constantly thinking about his woman, wife, especially when she's not around him. He could be suspecting her of cheating all the time, jealousy, unwarranted suspicions. Khalees was saying that she basically couldn't even wave hi to people when she would go to award shows and stuff because he would get so upset. Control is a major issue in relationship marriage. Put downs, name calling, insults, trashing, destroying. So I'm thinking that, this conjunction can be very provocative. So it's like Nas knows exactly what to say to get under someone's skin or to provoke a negative response out of them. And I believe he was using this conjunction on Khalees a lot. And he would say certain nasty things to her, and then Khalees would probably lash out. And then next thing you know, they in a fight. So even though Khalees was saying that she would never start it, I wouldn't be surprised if she would put her hands on Nas first, but as a result of him saying some real foul shit to her. Strong arming women. Let me just tell you, this Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra, when you're on the person's bad side, it's like the gloves come off and they're ready to kill you, annihilate you with their words. So somebody with this conjunction could actually provoke a violent response from somebody, or where they could just get them real upset, like they know how to get under someone's skin. My son has Mercury conjunct Pluto, but it's not in Libra, it's in Sagittarius. But I remember one time he said some slick shit to me, and oh my God, it tore me up inside. I was just like, wow. So I know how that, and it wasn't even as bad as it could have been, and he said it all calm too. And that's the thing. People with Mercury conjunct Pluto, they might not even be yelling, but they might say some foul shit. And next thing you know, you're the one yelling. So they really know how to get a rise out of people. Now, he was angry and he was dark. That dark part in particular, this is what Khalees had said. That's Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra. Now, they look real cute in this picture right here. Venus in Scorpio square Jupiter in Aquarius. So fans get in the way of his relationship or marriage. Breakups and separations. Disloyal, serious cheater, always in need of some strange. Can turn cold towards a woman. All bets are off once he feels like a woman no longer loves him or wants him, or he thinks she's cheating or what have you. Attracting women who will catch him cheating and won't put up with it and will break up in the process. Challenging / objecting to the amount he has to pay in child support. Explains why he didn't give Khalees child support for years. So she said, I didn't get not a single cent up until 2012. I was then audited. I was audited a couple of years ago for alimony that he said he did. He claimed that I never got. So our numbers didn't match up. Represents his ex-fiance Carmen getting with Jay-Z. The situation on the reality show where Nas didn't want to get on the plane, but eventually succumbed to Khalees's pressure. He doesn't feel in control when he's on planes. So what was I going to say about this situation with, I think I was going to say something with the situation. Oh, that's what it was. So I had to go back and watch the interview that Khalees gave to, I forget that guy's name, but I forget the name of the show too. Something Unlocked Hollywood or Hollywood Unlocked or whatever like that. And the first time I saw that interview that she gave, I believe Khalees wholeheartedly, especially because I have experience dealing with Virgo men and I know how they can be. And then when I watched it the second time, and this was a couple of days ago, I was like, I still believe every word she's saying. Now, she might have downplayed her role in it to a certain extent, but I don't believe she was lying when she was basically speaking about how Nas was behaving a lot of times. And his natal chart is basically confirming a lot of what she said. Now, here's Nas's first baby mom and his daughter. Venus and Scorpio opposition Mars and Taurus. So I already went over this opposition, but just a little bit more about this. This can cause him to be easily seduced by women, but also where he's being exposed by women. So basically he was exposed by both Carmen and Khalees as being an abuser. or abusive. So she, Khalees, is not the first woman to accuse Nas of domestic violence. Carmen Bryan, the mother of Nas's oldest child, claims the Queens rapper punched her when they got into an argument about Jay-Z. She recounted the story in her 2007 memoir, It's No Secret, From Nas to Jay-Z, From Seduction to Scandal, a hip-hop Helena Troy tells all. So here's what I did was I tried to do this as much as possible, but I might have left some of the color out. But where you see this in highlighted in blue, this is Nas quotes, because I got a lot of quotes in here for the next few slides. So you'll see some in blue, you'll see some in pink. So the ones in blue, this is what Nas is saying. So he said, in hindsight, now my advice to young men out there in a situation like that, he talking about when he's dealing with a woman who's abusive, is to run. That's dealing with this opposition right here. At the very first sign of verbal abuse or physical. Honestly, a Virgo man will take you there where you'll want to put your hands on them. That's how I got a black eye one time, because I slapped my Virgo ex and he came back with a right hook and I was seeing stars. And, you know, I had no business putting my hands on him first, but for him to come back and like hit me square in the eye, and I had a big ass shiner, man. Now, Venus and Scorpio trine Saturn and Cancer South Node, sextile Capricorn North Node. So here's him with his first baby mama and his daughter. In an October 2014 episode of PBS Finding Your Roots, Nas learned about 5 generations of his ancestry. So the ancestry, that's the Cancer South Node. His great-great-great-grandmother, Pocahontas Little, was an enslaved woman who was sold for $830. When host Henry Louis Gates showed Nas her bill of sale and told him more about the man who bought her, Nas remarked that he is considering buying land, as Cancer South Node, where the slave owner lived. Nas was also shown the marriage certificate of his great-great-great-grandmother Pocahontas and great-great-great-grandfather Calvin. All right, so let's get into some of the aspects of this synastry between Nas and Khalees. Oh, wait, my bad. This ain't the synastry part. This is talk about the yacht. Hold on, let me fix this real quick. I knew I would find a mistake in here somewhere. I proofread it and it still got me. All right. So Nas has a yacht in his chart involving Jupiter, Saturn, South Node, and Neptune. So in January 2012, Nas was involved in a dispute with a concert promoter in Angola, this story is crazy, having accepted $300,000 for a concert in Luanda, Angola's capital, for New Year's Eve, and then not showing up. American promoter Patrick Aloko and his son, who arranged for Nas' concert, were detained at gunpoint and taken to an Angolan jail by the local promoter who fronted the $300,000 for the concert. Only after the U.S. Embassy intervened and him having to deal with national issues, that's that Cancer South Node as well, and governments, that's the Capricorn North Node. Only after the U.S. Embassy intervened were the promoter and his son allowed to leave jail, but were placed under house arrest at their hotel. By the end of the month, Nas had returned all $300,000, and after 49 days of travel ban, Aloko and his son were both released. This also deals with his Mercury conjunct Pluto, squaring the nodes as well. His situation with Cameron. But you know what? It's quite common for Virgo to always find themselves into some type of static, because Virgo is very meddlesome and they are hypercritical. So they're the type that will criticize people and then be surprised when the person comes back with a rebuttal. So more about this yacht. After Nas was removed from the 2002 Summer Jam lineup due to allegedly planning to perform the song Ether while a mock lynching of Jay-Z effigy took place behind him, Cameron was announced as a last-minute replacement and headlined the show instead. Nas appeared on Power 105.1 days later and addressed a number of fellow artists, including Nelly, Noriega, and Cameron himself. Nas praised Cameron as a good lyricist, but branded his album Come Home With Me as whack. After Cameron heard of Nas's words, he appeared on Funkmaster Flex's Hot 97 and performed a freestyle diss over the beat to Nas's Hate Me Now, making reference to Nas's mother, baby mother, and daughter. Nas did not respond directly, but appeared on the radio days later, calling Cameron a dummy for supposedly being used by Hot 97 to generate ratings. Nas eventually responded on his 2002 album God's Son on the song Zone Out, claiming Cameron had HIV. Cameron and the rest of the diplomats, specifically Jim Jones, continued to attack Nas throughout 2003 on numerous mixtapes, albums, and radio freestyles. However, the feud between the two slowly died down and they eventually reconciled in 2014. So he's done a lot of reconciling, but that's very much Mercury conjunct Pluto and Libra. Especially the trine is forming with Jupiter. So more about this yacht. If you have followed Nas throughout the years, you'll remember that he faced controversy for the Hate Me Now video where he was portraying himself as Jesus Christ dying on the cross. And P. Diddy was on a cross next to him. So although the song Hate Me Now may be a fan favorite, the video came with a lot more controversy than any music video should. Shot by Hype Williams, the video features the crucifixion of Christ with Nasir himself playing the role of Jesus. Diddy, who was then known as Puff Daddy, was featured on the track, was also cast as one of the criminals on a cross beside Nas. Conflict arose on April 15, 1999, when the video was premiered on MTV's TRL. Puffy, who is a devout Catholic, had requested his image on the cross be removed from the cut of the video that was to air nationally. Whether it was an honest mistake or done intentionally is unknown, but the fact of the matter is the request was ignored and the full video was broadcast across the country. So this yod can play out as basically blasphemy or claims of blasphemy. Now, the events that followed could be deemed as outlandish by some. Puffy's reaction to the lack of consideration of his religious views turned violent when he stormed into Nas' manager Steve Stout's office with several bodyguards and allegedly attacked Stout by smashing a bottle of champagne on his head. The assault led to a suit that was settled out of court. All right, so let's get into the synastry between Nas and Khalees. And I have some quotes that are representing some of the aspects in the synastry. So Khalees's Mars conjoined to Nas' Saturn and South Node in Cancer and opposing Nas's North Node in Capricorn. So this is representing them via in a South Node relationship. And South Node relationships can be particularly hard because they start off really great. You know, both of them had this sense of familiarity when they met them with the Cancer energy. They felt like kindred spirits. They were very close, wanted to always be by each other's side, probably doing a lot of cuddling and stuff. But then that's basically a trick to get the people to come together and stay together long enough for there to be a remittance of karmic debt. So Khalees has activated Nas's karmic debt via women and co-parenting. Also, this is representing them creating a family together, mirroring each other, but also Nas punishing Khalees with that Saturn influence. Khalees pushing Nas to his limit. That's probably how he would say it. Also, Khalees talked about hibernation. So she said, if we're similar in any way, it's that we're both like shut out the world. We're both really good at that. So we like hibernated, and it was just him and I for a long time. So that hibernation, shutting out the outside world, is very much dealing with her Mars on his Saturn and South Node opposing that Capricorn North Node. So this is also dealing with this too. So she said, so when I got home and saw that foreclosure notice, I had no idea, and he didn't give a damn. So that right there is pointing to right after, it was about 3 months after she had their son, Knight. And she put the down payment for the house that they had in Los Angeles. He was paying the mortgage. And she said that was part of their agreement because she was the one bringing in all the cash. Hello. So we know that, she said, Nas always outperformed her in terms of record sales. But, with record sales, you got to wait for your royalty checks to roll in. Or you could be making cash by doing performances, concerts and stuff, shows. But she said that she was the one that was doing all the working, like doing all the performances and stuff when they were married for the most part. So she was the one that was bringing in the cash money. So they made this agreement that she would pay for everything up front, like the down payment for the house, and he would take care of the mortgage. So once she split from him, even though he knew that she just had their baby, he stopped paying the mortgage. So when she got back to Los Angeles from New York, she saw a foreclosure notice on the front door. And she was like, what the fuck, Nas? And he didn't give a damn. So your question, Lish, is he a very generous person? No. Because for you to do that to your child, even though you're not with the child's mother anymore, I mean, come on. Khaleesi's Mercury and Moon in Leo square Nas's Mars and Taurus. So Nas would accuse Khaleesi of creating drama and disturbing his peace with this aspect. Also represents Khaleesi's challenges with receiving child support from Nas, as well as custody, where her Mercury and Moon being in Leo. As you can see, Khaleesi has a lot of planets in Leo. And what's interesting is, from what I heard, she doesn't believe in astrology. I'm just like, wow, okay. She said, I mean, my mom definitely was not, meaning supportive of her marriage to Nas. No, I know she didn't, but I think it's because she saw it. It was like we were going to crash and burn, which we did. So thanks, Mom. This is a crash and burn aspect, these squares. She also said, I was really naive. And Leo is the sign of naivete. Leo can be very naive. She said, I was really naive. And I was madly in love. And Leo's about being madly in love. And so I took a lot that I shouldn't have taken. I was pregnant. I was terrified. I was like, I cannot bring a person into this. This is a freaking mess. And I cannot control this. I got to get out. So her being pregnant triggered her to separate. She couldn't handle it no more. Dealing with a person with Mars and Taurus, especially a man, it could be damn near impossible because they could be very set in their ways, stubborn, inflexible, just ridiculous with their inability to compromise or unwillingness to compromise, I should say. So she said, God is so good because being pregnant, I think that I probably would have stayed longer had I not been pregnant because I really did love him. I took these quotes from the transcript of that interview on YouTube. You could check out the whole interview. Again, I think it's by Hollywood Unlocked. It's that light-skinned dude that's interviewing her. And he did a really good job interviewing her. There was a lot of just mental and physical abuse. So these squares right here is pointing to the physical abuse and mental abuse that Nas inflicted upon her. Khaleesi Mercury and Moon and Leo square Nas's Mars and Taurus. So more about these squares. She said, something reminded me of Rihanna. She said this during that interview. I remember so clearly when the pictures came out with that whole thing that happened with her and Chris Brown. And the only way I could describe it was like double dips. Like I felt like, do I jump in? Like, do I say it? Because I had bruises all over my body at the time. So much of me was out of character in that marriage. Like taking that is not my character. Like taking that wasn't not in my character. She kind of speaks a little disjointed too. I think that's why the transcript kind of wonky. Also, she said he doesn't participate as a parent. He shows up when it's fun. And I was like, when I heard her say that, I was like, that's his Mars and Taurus all day. Because fathers that got strong Taurus energy like that, and again, not all, but you'll have some that do this, where it's all superficial to them. So they'll play the role of daddy when it's a photo op or when it's convenient for them, or, when it's gonna, when it benefits them. So she said he shows up when it's fun. He shows up when there's a good photo op. He shows up when he feels like he needs a snuggle. So Khaleesi's Saturn in Virgo semi-square, Nas is Venus in Scorpio. So she also said, I was cracking up when I read this. When I heard her say this, she said, you can call me a gold digger, but we have to have gold to dig. But okay, gold digger. He got money 2 years ago, guys. Like, seriously, let's be real. If I was a gold digger, I wouldn't have chosen him. So also, this semi-square is pointing to, again, like how I said, that Venus and Scorpio in Nas's chart is representing the royalties that he's getting. And you got to wait to get those royalties. And sometimes they're not coming in. Her Saturn in Virgo is representing what she said about she was the one that was working all the time. So she was the one that had the cash. And she was probably also, I would say she was probably micromanaging him too. Because with that Saturn in Virgo, that can cause her to be a micromanager. So Khaleesi's Saturn in Virgo quincunx Nas's moon in Aries. So she said, like, I needed help. I wanted help. Her needing help, Saturn in Virgo. I asked for help. There was no help. So when you dip in and you want to come around, that's fine. But you haven't been a parent and you haven't been around for a very long time. So to show up now, yes, I'm angry. And he makes it like a mocking me. Like, oh, you're so mad. It's not about not allowing you to see him. It's about the fact that you've not been there. You can't show up when you feel like it and regulate. That's what you're not going to do. You cannot show up for months and then show up and want to change the whole schedule, the whole plan though. Oh, like what? No, sir. That is not what we are going to do. Khalees Uranus in Scorpio, sesqui square Nas is Saturn and South Node in Cancer. So here's Nas. He says, you came into my life at a time I was grieving for my mother's passing. You was a friend. Because of that, I wanted to marry you, he wrote, before apologizing for not being the most faithful husband. Whenever one is constantly attacked, the instinct is to restrain that person or defend yourself to prevent escalation. Addressing claims that he had been violent against Khalees, elsewhere in the statement, he said, I did not beat up my ex-wife. Stop. Now, nobody's saying you beat her up, but I wouldn't be surprised if Khalees is telling the truth, where he did put marks on her. She had bruises all over her body, and you don't remember because you was blackout drunk half the time. And I know how men who have been abusive lie. One of my exes, he beat me like a man one time. And then when I brought it up one day, he acted like he had amnesia. He was like, I never hit you. He's hit me like maybe on 4 occasions. And a few years later, after we broke up, he claimed he had never hit me. But that's what abusers do. Rarely will they admit the abuse that they've inflicted upon others. They just won't, they'll refuse to admit it. Khalees's Uranus in Scorpio, quincunx Nas's moon, and Chiron in Aries. So she said, I didn't file for divorce because he cheated. He's been cheating for 2 years, and I knew that it was because on top of all the other stuff, then you're going to cheat? Okay, this is too much. She also said he was mad about who I was going to go talk to. He would be mad about if we were at an after party for the Grammys or MTV or whatever. If Jay said hi. Khalees's Uranus in Scorpio, semi-square Mercury and Pluto in Libra. So this is Nas. This is what life has come to, sis. Exploiting some people's real struggle and pain just to get at me, to get attention, fame, another fight against men. He wrote in the first of the lengthy statements. He went on to describe a decade of dealing with very hostile behavior and verbal abuse, as well as mentioning physical violent attacks. Like I said, With this right here, Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra with Nas, I'm pretty sure he would say things that would provoke her to anger. And I'm not justifying her lashing out at him, but somebody with Mercury conjunct Pluto and Libra can have a wicked tongue. And that could be provoking somebody to respond with either abuse or anger or whatever. Now, granted, we have control over our reaction, or we need to control how we react to situations. But I'm just basically saying this is showing that he would provoke her to become upset to the point where she probably would turn abusive, and then he would respond back with either restraining her or hitting her in return or whatever. So I'm not exempting Khalees from doing her part. And she even admitted that, you know, they were fighting each other. And she even said, look, I'm not weak. I can fight and I will hit somebody and all that type of stuff. But she claimed that she wasn't the one who started it. But what I'm saying is, she's probably saying she didn't start it a lot of times because she saw Nas as starting it with his filthy mouth. And I'm pretty sure there'd be times where he would just start it with the physical attacks as well. Khalees's Neptune in Sagittarius square Nas's Sun in Virgo. So the whole story that, like, you keep me from my child, really, when did that happen? So was it when I was begging you to help, or when I was waiting for you to show up to the point where I can't even tell my child you're coming until you're at the curb because of how many times you have not shown up? So this aspect is basically representing Nas claiming that Khalees is keeping him from seeing his son. So it says Nas also says that Khalees keeps him from seeing his son and that he will continue to fight for the right to see him. He claims that Khalees went so far as to tell their son that God doesn't love Nas because he doesn't go to church. Khalees's Neptune in Sagittarius, semi-square Nas's Jupiter in Aquarius. So Nas said his response was the result of receiving a call from Essence magazine about my ex-wife doing another sad, fictitious story. Nas ended his post stating that it would be the last time he would publicly address any issues with his ex-wife. This is my truth. Khalees's Pluto opposing Nas' Moon and Chiron in Aries. So Khalees is basically saying it wasn't good ever. And she said we had like really intense highs and really intense lows. She said we're falling out of control, like it was all just too much. And like we lived hard, you know. And so because of that, like when that comes down, it goes low as possible. So it's hard, you know, because there's no balance there. I called him and I'm like, yo, there's a foreclosure notice on our door. Like what? And his response, which has been very consistent ever since then, was go fuck yourself. That's very Moon conjunct Chiron and Aries. For him to just be totally like, go fuck yourself, especially with opposing her Pluto. So he said, I have to say I wasn't the most faithful husband. I was immature. I'm sorry about that, but you bumped your own head, sis. Talking about she bumped her own head. That's Moon conjoined Chiron and Aries all day. He wrote, why do I have to live through a constant divorce? It didn't work out. Life goes on. I'm not coming back to you. She don't want his ass back. So Khalees's Chiron conjoined to Nas, Mars, and Taurus. So this can manifest as extreme possessiveness. Nas could have treated Khalees as a prized possession instead of as her own individual. Also, this can point to money problems. Again, Khalees claimed that she was bringing in all the cash at one point. Could have been a sore spot for Nas. He bought gifts, and I love gifts. So here's him buying her gifts to try to ease the pain, heal the wounds. Did he hit me? Did I hit him back? I'm not afraid to throw a punch, but I wouldn't have started it, she said. Khalees North Node in Virgo, South Node in Pisces, square Nas's Neptune in Sagittarius. So she said, you know, there was a lot of drinking. He would black out. He would drink too much. He drank way too much. He drank way too much. He will never admit it, would he drink too much. And there are times when we would party and I would drink with him, but then he would keep drinking. We got into this massive fight where he like broke the door off the hinges. And I was so afraid that he was going to throw away the jewelry that's represented by her Pisces South Node, because it's not my jewelry. And we were so drunk. And the next morning I woke up Nas saying, we got robbed. So Nas, this aspect where Nas's Neptune is squaring her nodes was really triggering that Pisces South Node, where her being paranoid, drinking too much, her being confused, scared, the jewelry situation. Definitely not a healthy situation, as evidenced by these squares. And also like the Neptune and Sagittarius square her Pisces South Node, that's her talking about Nas would overdrink. He would drink too much. He would keep drinking. And also that just showed that triggered her to drink. Venus in Scorpio, opposition Mars in Taurus. So I already went through this aspect, but this is a perfect representation of this opposition. So this is one of his album covers, one of the more recent ones. And it says Nas' 2012 album, Life is Good, featured the rapper sitting with his ex-wife's distinctive green wedding dress draped over his knee. You know, that's a little psycho if you ask me. But he does have Venus in Scorpio opposing Mars in Taurus. He also has Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra. And here's just his response to Khalees's claims of abuse. I don't know if I'm going to read all this, but it says, the price I pay to see my son, and apologies in advance for the typos as I'm speaking from the heart as a man who has had enough. Today I got a call from Essence about my wife doing another sad, fictitious story. Nothing surprises me anymore, including this. This is what your life has come to, sis? Exploiting some real people's struggle and pain. So I read a lot of this already. We are a human family. We should be better examples for our son. He's totally projecting. Why is there even an issue for me to have time with my son? A son needs his father. So many absentee fathers out here. And here I am being attacked by your accusations simply because I got us in court to help fix this custody matter. Why did I have to take you to court to see our son? Why, when I win the joint custody, which is a win for both of us and our son, it helps us with both our schedules. Why do you feel that it's an attack on you? Is it control? Why do you need to have control over my life? Because we're not together? Then why? Is this being rewarded and praised by people who are being taken advantage of by you and your lies? To all separated couples out there who are cordial and co-parent nicely, good for you. I wish that was me. I'm the most chill, cool parent there is. Not according to Khalees, especially the way you showed your ass a couple of times after the Thanksgiving dinner that she invited you to. This is when she was already remarried, I believe, to Mike Mora. And then also when he was showing his ass when he came to get her son or something. She said she has so many stories. Now, to all separated couples out there who are cordial and co-parent nicely, good for you. I already read that part. He said, I'm a mild-mannered, God-fearing. Now, I agree. For the most part, he probably is mild-mannered with that Mars and Taurus. But when he drinks, he turns into something else. God-fearing, very fair human being who tries his hardest to please everyone. Now, that could be true with that Mercury conjunct Pluto and Libra. It's my nature. I've seen this too many times before. And there were times I thought Khalees, my ex-wife, was not this type. This is the type of antics that deceive people and people mistakenly call it strong. Seems I always had more belief in you than you do for yourself. I instilled strength in my daughter, who you were already so jealous of. So he's claiming she was jealous of his daughter and treated poorly, being jealous and verbally abusive to a little girl. Now, I don't know how much true is that, but I have seen instances where Leo women aren't very nice to other women, including little girls and stuff. So I wouldn't put it past Khalees to have treated his daughter a little roughly at times. But he might be over-exaggerated or whatever. And one thing about Leo women too, a lot of them will put their hands on a man. So again, but Khalees did mention that she basically would be coming back with the hits as well. but I think sometimes she would be the initiator. So y'all can actually, you know, Google what he wrote, because I really don't have time to go through all this. But let me see what he says here. You used to turn my phone off so my professionals couldn't reach me and take the battery. That's Mercury conjunct Pluto, squaring the nodes. You insulted any and everyone, whoever was around me. Not a single, and I, you know, Leo women can be hella bossy too. And, you know, she had that song, I'm Bossy. And she claims she really don't believe in astrology like that. She might have changed her mind now. I wouldn't be surprised if that divorce had her looking up Virgos, especially in terms of, she might even watch my Dark Side of Virgo video. You never know. Not a single person in my life loved or could even stand you. Luckily, damn, again, that's that Venus square Jupiter in Aquarius. Luckily for you, our assistants all signed non-disclosure agreements, or you would have a list of men and women who would happily talk about how verbally abusive and evil you are. Your self-saboteur ways has caused you and your grief you're dealing with, not me. The altercations you speak of are no more different from what most normal couples go through. So he's trying to diminish that. But your exaggerated version is unjust. Whenever one is constantly attacked, the instinct is to restrain that person or defend yourself to prevent escalation. In hindsight, now my advice to young men, I already read that part. He said, you play with strong women's struggles like they mean nothing. You're taking advantage of a moment in time where women who are fighting for their lives to get justice and being treated fairly, and you just looked at it as an opportunity to get ahead. Like, and that's Mercury and Pluto and Libra squaring his nose. That's him. That's basically why he's saying all this. Like abuse is a game, like tearing down your son's father is a game. You have a son. Why are you still competing with me by telling him bad things about me? Guess what, sis? He has eyes and ears and smart as ever. I don't have to say anything. I think he knows what's really good. You will not stop me from fighting for my son. You tell him God doesn't love his dad because his dad doesn't go to church. Everything with her is a plot and a scheme. Has no merit, no foundation. I didn't want to speak up because I have real respect for our women. That's his Saturn conjoined to the Cancer South Node with Saturn ruling respect. And definitely my son. I do not beat up women. He said, I do not beat women. I did not beat up my ex-wife. Stop. You got beat up in court. How much money do you want? Do you want me to relinquish my rights to see my son? Is that what you want? Just tell me. After all the tweets and posts you made through the years disrespecting me and my family, I still have love for you as the mother of my child, but I am done with this. This game ends now, and God will be the judger of all this. And although you tell everyone God hates me, some Christian you are, I will survive and thrive from this moment because I know who I am, and you have not a clue who you are. Part 5 is missing. I couldn't find part 5. And to all the fans that knew my silence was due to the fact that I don't openly do this kind of petty shit, I appreciate you riding. And to those that were led down a wrong path, I get it. Very sensitive times, and all things must be taken seriously. This is my truth, and I don't care what else she has left to say unless it concerns our son. This is the first and last time I'm addressing this. Despite all of this, I still hope for the best for her, because what's best for her is what's best for Night. Love, Nasir bin Oludara Jones. So we might as well allow Nas to have the last word with this. So that concludes my reading on Nas. Let me know what you think in the comments section. And thank you once again, Lish, for sponsoring this video. I really enjoyed doing it. It actually, I was in my feelings a little bit listening to that interview of Khalees again, because I can relate to some of what she said through my own experiences with Virgo. So yeah, but I definitely believe that she's telling the truth in that interview. So check out that interview. If you haven't seen Nas in the movie Belly, check that out, because like I said, just horrible actor, and he doesn't need to act in any other films. But yeah, that concludes my reading. If you would like a reading, you could go to my website. The link is in the description section. Please like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, because I have plenty more videos coming up. I have some more sponsored videos to do, so stay tuned for that. I did promise you guys I'll be doing a live stream soon, so stay tuned for that. And peace. I'm out.